go ahead and let the folks in.
Sit up a little straighter when I know folks are entering the room. Hair and to be professional.
Oh goodness, these things. These glasses. I'm telling you.
Do you ever do soap and water, like hand soap and water, and then hand dry with a paper towel?
Done everything. They're impossible to get clean in a decent amount of time. Yeah. Okay, this is good. This is gonna get right now.
Folks are getting a little behind the scenes chat. Pitter patter between hosts.
And we are live on Facebook. Oh yeah, see there, you just heard yourself probably. Hello, everybody. Welcome to We Are Listening. My name is Ahmed Dents, Development and Artistic Associate. I think that's what they call me here at San Diego Repertory Theatre. And welcome. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Artistic Programs Manager and Local Casting Director. I think that's what they call her over there at the Playhouse for now.
Most of the time. For now.
Jacole Kitchen is in the house. Let me go ahead and take off my little... get rid of my little screen share here. I hope I got rid of it. Is it still there?
Yep, you're good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to We Are Listening. It's good to be back with y'all. Again, my name is Ahmed Dents. This is Jacole Kitchen. How you doing, Jacole?
Doing great. Good to be here.
Good. Everybody, welcome. We have a really good show for you tonight. We have this gentleman who's had a long history with the Rep, going on 30 years. We're going to introduce you to him in just a moment. For those of you who this is your first time, this is We Are Listening, where we focus on the perspective, lives, and careers of Black theater artists, creatives, performers, workers, administrators, whatever you want to call it, Black folks who work in theater, not just here in San Diego, but on the national level. And we thank all of you for being here. We just want to real quickly touch on our next couple of guests that we have coming up. I'll remind you about them later on. Coming up on March 4th, Artistic Director of American History Theater and Associate Artistic Director of Trinity Theater, Candace Crystal, will be joining us. That'll be on March 4th at 5:30 p.m. And then on March 18th, at 5:30 p.m., Jonathan McCrory, Artistic Director at the National Black Theater, and Keith Joseph Atkins, Artistic Director for the new Black Fest, will be joining us. So those are going to be some really great conversations. And then stay tuned, because we will start filling out the calendar for the rest of the spring into the summer. And I think you're going to like the guests that we're efforting to get onto the show. And I was just telling Jacole, I got some things in mind that might involve y'all, the watchers and listeners, to get involved with us. So just make sure you keep an eye on that. Jacole, why don't you tell me what's going on over there around La Jolla Playhouse Way?
As always, Digital Wow continues. We have a really cool program going on right now called...
I know. Me too. All the time.
There's so many. So we do have a program coming up. Anjanette Mariah Ramey, who is about to open Mariah Performing Arts. She and a lot of creators from Southeast San Diego, which is going to be a huge part of the conversation coming up, featuring the lyrics of poet renowned Gil Sotu, and dancers, lots of art spectacle, everything coming together to make this really beautiful piece about Southeast and the people who inhabit it through dance. There is another really cool piece that is going on right now, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. I wish I would have done a quick Google search. But it's a chance to connect with people. It's getting a call with a stranger and connecting with people. 1,000 Ways is the name of that production.
There you go.
And it is ways to connect with folks. And then this is just part 1 of 1,000 Ways, a phone call. Part 2 is coming up in the spring, where we might even be able to get folks face to face. So please, as Ahmed has up on the screen right now, visit La Jolla Playhouse to check out everything that is going on with our Digital Wow series.
There you go. And don't worry, Jacole. It seems like I know what's going on, but it's just because I have a Word doc in front of me to remind me of everything that's happening here.
Look it up.
Around San Diego Reps Way, We will be streaming. We are streaming, or you can sign up to watch Bollywood Kitchen. It's an interactive production with filmmaker and cookbook author Sri Rao. I hope I can pronounce his name right. I know my name gets pronounced wrong all the time, so I hope if he hears this, he forgives me. He's inviting you to prepare a homemade Indian meal along with him, drawing up recipes that were the staples in his family's table. It's actually presented by the Geffen Playhouse. We're in partnership with him, so you can buy tickets and actually watch that. And then also we have Drive-Through Shushan, a behind the mask experience where you can join the Hive and Lipinski Family San Diego Jewish Arts Festival for an experimental drive-through filled live dance, music, and merriment as they bring the ancient voices of the Purim story to life. You can sign up for that. Get your tickets at San Diego SDRep.org. And of course, coming up next weekend, February 26th through the 28th is the 29th annual Kuumba Festival. We will get into the details about that in just a few moments. And then don't forget to head on over to the Old Globe, oldglobe.org. Remember, we are listening. It's produced by San Diego Repertory Theatre in partnership with La Jolla Playhouse and the Old Globe. Yep, see up above Jacole's head, there's the Old Globe, there's the Playhouse over there. Make sure you head on over to the Old Globe, oldglobe.org. That's where our silent partner, we've only got him on camera once, Mr. Freedom Bradley Ballantyne. That's where he does his thing. Make sure you head over there and check out what they got going on. And with that, let's go ahead and bring on our guest for this evening. And for those of you joining us, if you don't know this man, you're going to get to know this man tonight. Mr. Dajahn Blevins, why don't you go ahead and come on into the room, man? Like I said, this man here, if you don't know who he is and you work in San Diego theater here in San Diego, you're tripping. This dude right here has done, like, for real, man, like, you know, this man has done so much for the arts and for the 4th District and in bridging the lives of the youngsters in the 4th District and in the arts. And Dajahn, thank you, man. Welcome tonight, man. I want to tell everybody, look, he is not only the CEO of Urban Warriors, he is not only the founder of the San Diego Kuumba Fest, he is also a representative for the San Diego Arts Commission for the 4th District. Dajahn, welcome back to We Are Listening, man. You two was on the first episode, so welcome back, bro.
That's right.
Thank you for keeping it going. This is the changing of that narrative that you got going for us.
There you go. How you doing, man?
I'm blessed. I'm, a little scattered because I've never done a virtual Kuumba Fest before. So it's really funny because I used to tell the kids, God didn't put me here to do that kinds of stuff. I do the stage work. And they were like, Mr. Dajahn, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. And I was just adamant. No, I'm not doing that. And look at me now. The young people got me
now.
So I'm enjoying it. We're doing that whole green screen thing. We've totally reshaped our studio, the boutique, and we're literally just every day we're incorporating the things that deal with positive images and challenges and spiritual healing, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. So I'm just along for the ride, really. The young people are the ones kind of running things at this point.
We've talked about that a lot on this show. Like, I think that it's so exciting the way that young people are stepping up in this moment. And Miss Dia Hurston called me out for calling myself one of the elders. She's like, I didn't know who you were talking about. But it's so exciting to see the way that young people are stepping up, especially with this digital world, and seeing that this is their moment. That's really exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, I don't know what we would have done. Because literally we're all sitting in there. Every year with Kuumba Fest, we have like this spiritual fast and this prayer for what the next season is going to be. Because literally it's about the work that we do throughout the year. And then the fest is the celebration of that work. And this time it was Black to Action, not in vain. We had no idea that COVID, was coming or anything like that. So it's just really unique how the spirit part of what we do answers what we need. And so that's what we're doing as a community, is trying to get back to action and not let what we do be in vain.
It's funny that you say that, because we're working together trying to put this thing on, as we all are, all of us, and we've entered into this new virtual world, man. And we know that part of this is going to stay as we move forward, no matter what happens when we open back up. We just know, and it's not just theater, it's sports, it's movies, everything. Part of this virtual world is going to stay. So as we move forward, we know we're going to have to, along with our live shows, we're going to have to keep going with some virtual offers. There's going to be some folks like my mom. She ain't even going back to church, bro. She's not even trying to leave the house again. So we know there's going to be people who are not going to enter back into the world like they did before. So we're going to have to get into this virtual world. And, you know, I want to get into the details and, you know, kind of share with everybody what's going on with Kuumba Fest a little later on. But I want to start off tonight by introducing the people who don't know, or maybe know you and don't know you as good as they think they do, or your history. I want to start with you, man. And I first want to start off with, you know, I want to get into what's going on with the Arts Commission and all that, but I want to kind of get the background for people so they understand, you know, this is the 29th annual Kuumba Fest coming up here, you know, at the Rep, man. And so 29, that's 30 years. That's a minimum of 30 years that you've been doing your thing in this arts world, man. So I just want you to kind of give everybody a brief introduction to how you got into this lane, man.
Yeah. Well, actually, we did the Kuumba Fest for 6 years in the community before we actually came to the San Diego Repertory Theatre. And like I kind of alluded to before, it's a program that you work with the youth, and you can't work with the youth unless you work with the family, and you don't want to send the family to a dysfunctional community. So you end up working with the youth, the family, and the community. And it literally was a behavior modification program. Back in the day, they had the audacity to call our children at-risk youth. And they were saying, you know, there's nothing you can do for them. They're all going to end up in prison. So we just need to go ahead and create a program to put them in there early. And we were just incensed. We were just fresh out of college. And we were like, give them to us. If you can't, you know, serve our population, then you bring them to us. We're uniquely qualified to serve our own community. And it literally started out like that. There was a school, I think Horseman was the very first school. San Diego was so diverse. Our city is just incredibly diverse. And in the 4th district, the area that they like to call Southeastern San Diego, there are like over 54 different ethnic cultural groups there. And there was really nobody coming at it from a cultural perspective. So things just started to click up, and you had different groups trying to establish their identity and who they were. And I worked with elementary and middle school age kids. And so that's that time where they're trying to do that. And I dare say we as a city didn't have a lot of cultural things for them to engage in. And so we just took, we took the mantle and started running with it. They gave us 30 kids initially. Those kids did fantastic as far as bringing up their GPAs, their attendance, their whole mindset. It was supposed to be a gang diversion program, but it was really an identity building program. They kept their acts together for that year. The Rep, I was already on the African American Advisory Council of the San Diego Repertory Theatre from a lady by the name of Phyllis Tolliver, I came back to San Diego in '82. In '84, she was like, this is where you're gonna be. I was also a student under Dr. Floyd Gaffney. And so that was like one of the greatest mentors I had, that said we had a responsibility as Black people to use the arts to heal us and to train and guide us. I took that to heart. They kind of surrounded me with people like Jacqueline Jackson, Dr. Shirley Weber, Ardell Matthews and Dr. Matthews, and Dr. Wilma Wooten. She was running the Gallery 504 and First Fridays back in those days. So we just kind of came together about 9 deep. I was to do the gang diversion through the arts. Others were to do fine arts. And we just made a pact back in 1986 and said, we're going to use the arts to take San Diego back to the level of, they used to call it Harlem of the West. My grandfather used to run a club called the Creole Palace in the one of the Black hotels called the Douglas Hotel. And we knew that history existed for us. So we decided we would, step up and try and reclaim it. My grandfather ran the Douglas Hotel Creole Palace. My dad coordinated the theater and the entertainment activities at a park. There's Mountain View Park, but back then we called it Ocean View Park. So every Sunday they would have entertainment and live bands. And it was really odd because the bands that he managed I ended up with their children. So it just became full circle. And we took that after, doing it in the community for good 6 years. Phyllis Tolliver said, why don't you bring that celebration to the San Diego Repertory Theatre so the whole city can see what we do? Well, the theater only holds 500 people. By then we had 9 schools involved. So we really filled up the theater with just our families, our youth, and our dance groups and all of that. It used to be one day and it just continued to grow until at one point it was 4 days. And we moved from gang diversion into cultural enrichment. And then we sort of like settled in creative youth, family, and community development. And that's sort of like our battle cry now. We try and bring Kuji Chagulia to the youth, to the families, and San Diego's Black community.
That's right. That's right. And what was the reception at the time? Like at the time, what was the reception like when you brought that to the rep? Like what was kind of like the reception like when you brought it here to San Diego Repertory Theatre?
It's really interesting because like I said before, I'm an actor. I started out. And so I was doing work at the rep. I think I had done the Christmas Carol a couple of times and maybe some other things. But before that, the rep was like lily white. When you would walk into the building, people would, can we help you?
The old, like, can we help you? Such a
you're not supposed
phrase,
to be
isn't
here.
it?
So it's like, it is, I don't even have the words to explain to you how back in the 80s, the little children that I would bring in with me to look at the pictures on the walls, the tension that would build up with the staff and the ushers and the people that were there, like, oh my God, what are they doing here? I mean, literally people told me every year, those white people are not gonna let you bring all the Black people from Southeast to that theater again. They just did that one time that year, but they're not gonna let you do it again. And here we are coming up on 30 years. So I dare say it's night and day as to the welcoming, the atmosphere. They didn't want the kids sitting on the stairs. Well, now we have bleachers for the children to sit on. So not only have we and the staff of the San Diego Repertory Theatre changed, the physical facility has changed, and the attitude and accepting of the San Diego Repertory Theatre now being the leading theater in San Diego as far as dealing with cultural issues, dealing with Black issues, dealing with every year there's a town hall meeting that specifically addresses the issues of the Black community and how we use art and culture to address that. Every year there's a fat extravaganza, fashion art talent, fashion art talent entrepreneurs talent show that's really based off people who were suicidal. And now they're utilizing the arts to live. And this thing has been running 20 something years. So and then you have the Black Family Day. This little theater that didn't want anything to do with Black people, you would think, now is responsible for quarterly events that happen in San Diego that don't happen anywhere else in the United States on a consistent basis.
Dajahn, right. You're bringing up something that I think that doesn't get talked about nearly often enough, is the connection between arts and survival. I mean, you literally just said some of these folks were suicidal. And so yes. we hear, that phrase, oh, the arts, it saved my life. And it's easy to discount that as hyperbole. But can you talk about that, the connection between the arts and maybe specifically theater arts and literal survival?
Yes. For us, for Black people, art is an imitation of life and an inspiration for life. People take for granted that we're constantly traumatized every single day, in this country that brought us over here for one purpose, and now they're stuck tolerating us for whatever purpose that we're going to eventually come to an agreement on. But that trauma and that being told that you are at risk, that you are never, ever, I literally couldn't believe it when I heard that at the blueprint for San Diego City Schools, we're going to create a tolerance and an at-risk program. There are many, I've lost some young people over the years that we've done it. A part of the program is a Godson program. And there was a time where I couldn't talk about it because I was in so much denial that there were actually police officers that I'm still not over it. There actually were police officers and city people that would tell these kids, you're nothing. Your only value is that you're going to go to prison, and we're going to be able to run our private industry prisons, which we had 7 of in San Diego at one time. But for somebody to tell a kid that blew my mind. And for a police officer to attack a kid and say, you guys aren't kings and queens, you're none of those kinds of things. And they need to stop doing that. And for these children to take that as a challenge and say, it was one thing for me to ask them to do that when they found that there were institutions and police and other people that looked down upon them, it became a challenge for the young people to recruit their friends and say, we're going to prove these people wrong. Every day in America, you're reminded that you're lesser than as a Black man. Every day in America, you're reminded that you could die on a humbug, just on a mistake or somebody having a bad day. And it's like middle-class, older Black people almost take that for granted because many of them didn't grow up with that fear or with even that awareness that there's some idiot out there that could kill you, that is on the payroll, off your tax dollars. Those young people over these, 20-something years educated us, the so-called mentors and teachers and facilitators, on what they were really, really living. And they told us how important it was just to be able to express themselves for one night on a stage. It made it possible for them to go back and deal with the teachers that treated them like they were monkeys in a zoo or something, or people who said because they were dark, they were ugly, or that their hair was inferior, or that just being Black, you people come from an inferior kind of place. The arts and them being able to control that environment, even if it was just for an hour or 2 hours, has sustained families in San Diego for over 30 years. And I mean, being able to cry, being able to see yourself play a role of a businessman when you think you're supposed to be this gangbanger and all you can do is sag. But because you played the role, some of that experience, it rubs off on you and you incorporate it. It takes you to a whole nother level. So for us, the arts, it really is life. For us, the arts is demonstrating what you can do in a safe space, then taking it out to the world and embracing everything that came before you.
How's it been? How's it? Because I hear you talk about this a lot because you've been doing this for so long. How's it been for you watching those little ones? Like, I've seen your sons, man. Like, I see pictures of your sons. I go like, who's that grown man? Like, who is that? What's it been like for you, man, watching these kids come up that were on stage and learning plays and dancing, and now you see them as they've moved on and know that you've kind of had your eye and hand on them all the way up and out?
Brother, it blows me away. Because many of them run their own organizations now. It blows me away. I almost can't talk about it. One of the first Crew Royal honor, his father was one of the guys that was in my dad's crew. And so now I got him. He is responsible for the famous Miss Shauna, because the thing is, each one reach one until you recruit 10. So all of those young people that I had over 30 years ago, many of them have followed in the tradition and have created programs and moved to different parts of the United States and outside. We got a young man in Senegal that's run his program for 7 years now. So man, I almost don't have words for it, because I literally got to see these kids at 3 years old on stage, and now they're parents, if not grandparents, and they're continuing the tradition. And not only are they continuing the tradition, they have expanded upon the tradition. My stuff was like education now, babies later, uh, get your education now, and be somebody. They've made it so much more spiritual, so much more cultural, so much more of a challenge. It wasn't, my partner was Pamela Smith. What these young people have been able to do, we couldn't even imagine it. They've built homes. They've created businesses and apps to where they bought their parents homes, paid for. We weren't thinking of any of those kinds of things when we started this. We just wanted a kid to be able to go to class and successfully graduate from school and not feel the pressure of having to be a gang member because somebody says if you're Black, you got to be negative like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had real simple goals, and these families and young people have just taken it to a whole nother level.
For the people who don't know, I mean, Ahmed mentioned it when he was doing your introduction, but Urban Warriors is an organization that you run. Can you tell us about what Urban Warriors is, and are the programs that you're talking about, were those started under Urban Warriors, or just kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when initially when I first came home from I went to a historically Black college, Texas College. I started out at Morehouse, and I was blown away. I grew up in California. My family's down south and stuff, but I grew up in California. I could not believe that these guys were telling me not to talk to sisters that was darker than a paper sack. That blew me away coming from California. I was like, we got our own whole racist, crazy self-hate stuff mixed up within us. So I left Morehouse, I left Atlanta and went to Texas. And while I was there, my grandfather wanted us all to be attorneys, to be civil rights, leaders and all of this kind. My grandfather had all 8 of his kids graduated from San Diego State. My dad went to school on a golf scholarship. So we've always been told you got to do something different and, make a difference. My first job was working as a behavior modification facilitator in a group home. I only had 2 Black kids in the whole program, and my energy was about empowering Black kids. But I fell in love with all of my clients. So I created an organization called San Diego Urban Warriors to save everyone. It wasn't a 501c3 or anything like that. And our first program was called the Black Card. Black stands for Believers in Love, Altruism, Culture, and Kinship. So my first program was multicultural. It was urban youth. They were poor kids and, going through craziness. But that's really how that program did so well. I did it for just my clients. The parents got involved. Some wealthy people who were a part of it got involved, and we created the Black Card. And they ended up doing, before it was over 500 Black cards. And all it was about was having this card and having a discussion about love, altruism, culture, and kinship of human beings. So I started out with the whole human affirmation thing. How can we affirm our humanity as a arts project for, students that I was counseling? And that's literally how Urban Warriors got started. Children's Defense Fund found out about it, and they invited us to the Alex Haley farm to do workshops. And then we began to run freedom schools in San Diego as a result of that. And everything I do, health education and art, is incorporated in it. And then it just continued to grow. We ended up starting our own outreach program in the Southeastern community. And then different schools said, will you come to our school? Different churches said, will you come to our church? The 5-a-day program heard about us in Sacramento. And so they came and brought the Champions for Change 5-a-day program. And we just continued to incorporate any extra element that we, brought to San Diego Urban Warriors to serve the Black community, the youth, the family, and the community. We just kept incorporating things. And, that fit, as whether it was health or education, literacy. Lonnie Berry came to San Diego, and we ended up doing Brer Rabbit and that whole literacy program. And we just ended up being super blessed. People would find out about us. and then they would come help us. I don't know if you remember or not, Chris Rock did the very first Kuumba Fest. He found out about us and he was like, look, they didn't have this when I was a kid, so can I open you up? We didn't have money to pay him. So Chris Rock, D.L. Hughley, several people who found out about what we was doing in San Diego came and helped us out.
Well, let me ask you something about that, man. What's up with that? How come we don't know that? Like, how come we don't know Chris Rock was here at the first Kuumba Fest? How come we don't know D.L. Hughley? How come people don't understand that there was a picture of Whoopi Goldberg hanging up in here at the Rep for so long, because this is where she was doing her thing in the early days with Sam? How come we don't know? How is we know about all these other folks who came through town? How does that information not transfer through our artistic community? You know what I'm saying?
One thing is people didn't want it to continue. Well, let me say it a different way. One thing is that people didn't believe that it would continue. Then you had another faction that didn't want it to continue because they weren't doing it. But Pam and I didn't care about it because we had 5 schools and each school had like over 3,000 students. So we didn't have enough room for anybody else anyway. We were dealing with the fire marshal saying, you guys got too many people in this building. You got people on the stairs. So when the kids were much younger, and you know what I'm saying? Because they've grown up now, they've gotten older, people have moved away, so it's not that problem. But back in the day, we were so full, we kind of maybe didn't do a good job sharing everything else that was going on, because it was such an extended family of, city schools, counseling, probation, and us.
What oh my God, I had a question that just flew out of my brain. I think
what's that going on today?
I think I sidetracked myself when I asked you how people don't know that. I want to jump forward a little bit because I know it'll lead us in some other things and especially into our present day, because, again, as we always say as a theme on this show, these talks are always conversations that we've been having for years, especially when we're born in this moment that we're in now. But, these are conversations that we've, especially Black folks, been having amongst ourselves in the theater for years upon years upon years. So I kind of want to fast forward a little bit to, everything that you've done over the years. I want to kind of bring it forward to what happened, right before we got to where we are. Tell me a little bit about how it developed that you became a representative for the 4th District for the San Diego Arts Commission. Because I don't know if that's a story that a lot of people know or understand.
Right. When in 1990, I ran for well, first of all, the whole community actors thing, everything we talked about before, I was about, we need to use the arts to change San Diego. The arts, everybody wants to come here. We have the best weather. We're remiss if we don't do a better job at using the arts to get more money in the 4th District. We need to do stuff so that people, when they're traveling from the east to the west, they'll stop off and spend some money there. So I really would go to the commissioner and kind of bug them about that. I'm like, why isn't the city? Myrtle Cole was in office back then, and I just did not understand why there was so much development going on all around the 4th District, but nobody was doing anything to pull some of those dollars, into the 4th District. And I think me harassing people for so long, they were like, well, why don't you go to the commission and tell the commission that directly? And so I really think that's how that ended up happening. The work that I was already doing in the 4th District, and then trying to connect other businesses to look at that idea, was really based upon, what I started with Councilman George Stevens back in 1990. I ran for Mr. Black San Diego. He ran for city council. We both won. He called himself Shaka. I called myself the Urban Warrior. So we started that work then, because we remember the Encanto and street fairs and how people would come from everywhere. We remember the Cool Jazz Fest and Jazz is Forever. And he and I would have conversations, go, what is happening that these things are not happening anymore? And we really couldn't figure it out. So I said, look, me and Pam will get together and we'll start instigating and start trying to produce the things ourselves. After George Stevens, Charles Lewis picked up the bandwagon. And he's the one who put the signs up and kind of partnered up with us when we initially were talking about doing a San Diego Black Arts and Culture District. And we'd love for that to mirror what we used to do downtown with Harlem of the West. Unfortunately, he ended up passing away. And it was mostly me and Dr. Gaffney after that. Dr. Gaffney was older at that point. He wasn't really doing as much over in the 4th District. And so it just kind of fell in my lap. So the way I'm trying to address it is by being, a commissioner, and just, like the conversations we have, just day by day, trying to see what other people would be interested, trying to bring all the parts together. We have a new director over the Commission for Arts and Culture. He and I have some experience together in Sacramento with the same kind of work that we'd like to see happen in San Diego. So I think the future is bright. Jonathan Gus is incredible as far as bringing urban and communities and resources together for the arts.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the Commission for Arts and Culture does and how they support the arts? Because I know a lot of us know the term. I know a lot of us have stood in front of that commission and pleaded with them for money and told them about the programs that we're doing. I have been in front of that group many a time, both representing San Diego Rep and representing La Jolla Playhouse. But I think that there's not really a large understanding of all of the things that the commission does and ways in which they support the community.
The commission literally takes tax dollars and funds that the city goes for and utilizes those funds to financially support and enhance artistic expression, cultural expression. And I know people like to say that whole civil, maintain civility, but I really see it as inspiration. I see it as giving us inspiration. Sometimes if you go to a place and there's a beautiful piece of art and you see all these intricate pieces of it, and you might stand there and look at it and then figure out what you have in common and what you know about it. That to me is a lot deeper than just saying, oh, we have an arts commission and we do the opera and we do the symphony, that types of stuff. So their ultimate goal is to ensure the continuance of fine arts and cultural arts and what we call high arts. I was also one of those people for the past 20 something years doing the same thing, but I had a major complaint. My complaint was you have a whole loaf of bread and you traditionally give us crumbs. So it's just, like I said, full circle, because I was the one running around with the sign saying we're tired of crumbs, and now I'm literally there. And they are receptive and sometimes in shock, but Jonathan is a trailblazer. I'm here to serve and make sure the arts and the funds that are there are utilized to serve. The symphony is fantastic, but there's more to art than the San Diego Symphony. There are things, there's stages that could be built. There's programs that could be created to inspire people to express who they are, to deal with their trauma, to deal with their lack of thinking that they can be attached to the future. Music and art, we utilize to increase our quality of life. And I don't think that everybody looked at it that way. So that's what I get to bring to the table and challenge the rest of, the commissioners to support using art to increase the quality of life for those who are, don't have what some of the more wealthier people have.
Do you see, is there a noticeable difference between, just honestly speaking of the politics in the town? Is there a noticeable difference between when Myrtle Cole was over the district as towards now when it comes to the arts and the funding, or is it?
Yes, but I think it's mostly because it's new. You know what I'm saying? We went through this whole pandemic. Myrtle Cole hasn't had a chance to establish a relationship with Monica Montgomery Stepp. Yeah. She's brand new. Right. She hasn't had a chance to establish a relationship, with all of these people yet and figure out who's going to have her back and who's down for the arts and who cares about people of color and, you know, all of those kinds of things. She's, you know, brand new, but we know she loves the arts. And so we as a community, and I dare say many of the young people that helped put her in office, I think they're going to rally behind her and try to hold her, you know, hold her accountable and push her towards us healing, and healing in a unique way that's long-term for us, as opposed to what we traditionally get, that Band-Aid.
What do you feel like? Sorry, I'm just curious, going back to the previous thing that you were talking about, you know, as somebody who was in front of, as you said, the one that's saying no more crumbs, and now you're the one that's divvying out crumbs. Is there, or not crumbs, divvying out resources?
Well, yeah.
Do you feel like there, what's the question that I want to ask? Is there a difference? What was unexpected, I would say, once you joined the commission? You know, because we have, as the artists, as the ones that are begging for the crumbs, we have a certain perspective.
Right.
And so I guess my question is, was there anything that was unexpected about, oh, now I see why this has to happen this way, or any of those kind of aha moments going from being the buyer to the,
you know, I'm still kind of new, so they haven't collectively or individually shared that. There definitely was shock in the room. And then to add to the shock was George Floyd. You know what I'm saying? I ended up, you know, God does things for interesting reasons and timing. So I ended up there right at that time. And so the group collectively was just pretty much in shock. You know what I'm saying? You know, what do we do? Do we go forward? Do we go? The beautiful thing about it is, I think I initially went there thinking everybody was an artist, and realize that it's as diverse as it is. You know, some people are business people, some people are, you know, teachers, some people are entrepreneurs, some people are artists, but it's incredibly diverse. And I wasn't aware of that initially, but once I found that out, you could see how interested people were, how open people were, how uninformed people were previously, because it was genuine, like, oh my God, I had no idea. And what a concept. I mean, they really were just kind of following suit of way the curriculum was created. There wasn't really a challenge for them to say, instead of always giving the money to something that only this group listens to, why not try something like they did at Market Creek Plaza, where they brought all of the cultural groups together and challenged everybody to share their culture, and let's fund something like that. Everybody applauded those kinds of things. And I think people thought that they would be, no, we're not going to do that. Nobody had ever approached them with it before.
And just, that's a great segue into something that I wanted to make sure that we talked about today. Speaking of Market Creek Plaza, I mean, you're such a representative of so many different touch points here. Obviously, you were an artist representative, a representative of Southeast, the Diamond District, and you are also a representative of the Jacob Center. And just, I know that there is a lot of, is a lot of controversy surrounding the Jacob Center as now this kind of cultural hub of Southeast San Diego, and what the intention of the folks who built the Jacob Center and the programs therein, and the community itself. There has been a bit of sort of a divide between what the Jacob Center wanted to provide and what the community felt that it needs. Can you talk about that a little bit, that relationship with the Jacobs and Southeast, the Jacobs Center specifically, Market Creek Plaza,
there you go,
and Southeast San Diego?
Well, I'm glad you said Market Creek Plaza, because initially when the community came together, and it was incredibly comprehensive. We spent 3 years walking throughout the entire Diamond District, knocking on doors and signing people up for financial literacy classes and training. 3 years before we built Market Creek Plaza or any of that. Then we spent 2 more years teaching people how to invest in shares and those. So we did 5 years of preparatory stuff before we even started the community resource teams. Once again, I love the children, so I got to work with the kids. Those kids raised over $1 million and got to go to, what is with the Bulls? Merrill Lynch. They got to do all of that stuff before the recession. So those of us who experienced our kids getting to do that kinds of stuff, getting to design an amphitheater, getting to design the colors and all of that kinds of stuff of Market Creek Plaza, from the plaza to the bay, going to the parks, taking pictures of the parks, cleaning up the parks, removing the needles, going to the area across the street from the Malcolm X Library, which is the only one in the United States, and establishing a territory where they were going to build Youth World. All of those things that happened with those young people, raising $11 million to build an elementary institute of science in their own community, being able to pick the colors, the programs, what talent they want in order to establish Market Creek Plaza. The term Jacob Center was never a part of our conversation. It's almost offensive. It almost sounds like a plantation when I hear people say the Jacob Center, the Jacob Center, that has nothing to do with Market Creek Plaza and what we established and built with our own hands, our own money, our own designs. We literally came together 3 times a week and planned and wrote and designed for 5 years. We used Black-owned businesses. We got the city to shut down the whole trolley system to build a bridge in 24 hours, utilizing young Black men and young Mexican guys who wanted to come and do some construction with professional engineers. That the establishment of rescinding a law that said that a tagger could get a felony, where the community created something called writer's block and put up things for the kids to go do that. And then you had professional artists. So these kids who started out as taggers ended up becoming real artists and making $60, $70, $150,000 a year as real artists. That's what Market Creek Plaza is about. And it's so offensive that one man, Mr. Hapke, who was a son-in-law of the Jacobs, came and changed everything to the Jacobs Center and the plantation. So the second floor of that building, the Joe and Vi Jacobs Center building, is supposed to be a museum.
I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah, Legler Bimbo came and paid for the whole dang on floor. But now with all the craziness that's going on and the whole plantation mentality, that community can't even access it. And they had the audacity to say that we couldn't go ask that, business to leave because she's politically connected to some high official or something like that. That's straight plantation stuff. No, you can't move into your building because somebody's connected to a high politician, and none of them live in the 4th district or know anything about the Diamond District. But this is just the way it is when you're a Black guy. You just got to go for it. After we've invested all of our money and years and years and years and years and years, this is what we're told: you need to tolerate that. We allowed food for less in there, dirt cheap rent, because we were so desperate to have a grocery store in our community. But now those 10 years are over. They have to pay full rent. So all of us investors now stand to get a return on our financial investment. We weren't really, a financial return would be fantastic. But what we wanted more importantly than that was a sense of ownership. We built our own amphitheater. We don't have to go to Coors Amphitheater and have them kick us out. We have our own amphitheater. We have a Market Creek Plaza that employs over 182 people and has done so for the existence of it being there. The whole land trust thing and all of that, that's horrible. We hate that. That was bad. Wish we had more savvy business people to work with us in the beginning. But the experience of us coming together as a community, design and building for us, by us, and there being over 180 jobs and an amphitheater and a center there where we can do what we want to do, and a floor that's supposed to be a museum that speaks to our culture, our history, and our heritage. We did that. Nobody will ever be able to take that away from us. And we can do it again. And so we're at this time developing an area called the 8 Blocks, San Diego's Black Arts and Culture Business District. You want to take that away, we'll show you how we can do it again.
It sounds like this is on par with the history of what happened with Chicano Park.
Yes.
How
yes.
that, one of the most beautiful parts of town, it's one of the beautiful, cultural spaces in town, but they had to fight to keep it like that. They had to fight to keep that. That was going to be taken away. That was going to be, and it just mirrors how, like you were saying earlier, how much we all go to the shows. We like to drink our wine and eat our hors d'oeuvres and talk to each other at intermission and the talkbacks and everything. But this brings it back to where art meets life. Art meets the survival of the community. Art meets the survival of the cultural identity of the community. And not only that, it meets where the sweat equity that people forget has gone into that community. People who have literally lost sweat and blood in that community, and one of the few ways to keep it is through the art in that community. It's just such a parallel.
So true. And a lot of us have left. I'm not making excuses for, I'm not that person to make excuses, but there are a lot of people. I was one of the younger investors for Market Creek Plaza. So some of the investors have passed away, and then many of their children have moved, down south and into other places. There's a whole generation of young people who don't even know about Market Creek Plaza, how it got there, why it's there, how it was created for them and for their pictures to be on that store. There's just a whole void. And it's ridiculous that we depend on like Dr. Gaffney filled that void for so long. But now that you look back, you're like, what was wrong with us making one person be responsible for that much stuff? We've got to find a way to systematize this. And that's why I'm hoping that to have a San Diego Black Arts and Culture District and Business, San Diego Black Arts and Culture Business District, we can tie all of that stuff in. There should be a place to archive what we've already done. There should be a place, there's a gallery to showcase, so that when you take your child there and say, blah, 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 this guy did this and that, they will start internalizing, oh, well, this is part of what I have to do. This is what it means to be a member of this community. And we've been remiss in creating those systems and those opportunities, for that longevity to happen.
In this moment we're in, and I want to, get us to where we touch on the festival coming up next week.
I know. I was just thinking that. Should we talk about Kuumba Fest?
But I want to, I want to stay true to the moment too, because it's so important for the festival this year, and then moving into next year. You know what I mean? And you were on like I said, you and Jacole were guests on the first episode of We Are Listening, along with, who do we have? TJ Antonio Johnson.
Crew. Yeah.
We had Michael
Yolanda
Taylor,
was on there,
Yolanda Franklin, Delicia, and that was an episode, I think, where people really understood the passion that we had for this, and I want to ask you, Dajahn, kind of moving forward into this, because like you were just saying right now, a lot of the young people don't realize the history, and we have these discussions. We had the artistic directors on a while back, and we've had everybody, in so many different aspects of this industry on here, and so much talk has been about, what we're looking at institutions and how they're really, trying to step to the plate with what's real representation and what's real equity and what is this, that. But I kind of want to focus also on, in this moment, what we do, because I want people to understand, when we're talking about things, no one's asking for handouts. No one's asking for nothing. We just asking to be represented in a true light. We just asking to be understood in the same light. And with that comes, like, what are your thoughts on this moment, as far as, like you're saying right now, and I'm seeing it happening in this moment, the Black artists, the Black creatives, the Black administrators, everybody coming together to understand that, hey, this is our moment to also stand up and say, hey, let's squash all the beefs, let's squash the silliness, let's forget the whatever was, let's get this together for us, because the old divide and conquer thing is it is what it is. What are your thoughts on this moment, especially as you're looking at groups like, the Sandy, like that's what me and Jacole were talking about. We're calling ourselves the old folks in this group, but we feel like that because these youngsters, man, these folks in these teens and early 20s, they are coming with it and they are not playing. Like they want to know, and they're really, what are your thoughts on that right now, especially in the work that you've done over the years as we're moving into this moment now? Because like I said, we're going to open back up. Things are going to have to get back in. And I want people to understand. People think once we open back up, everything's going to be like, whoa, the heavens are going to, but it's like, no, these issues are going to have, these issues are going to be even more prevalent because less people are going to be wanting to go for it. What are your thoughts right now as far as the collective of Black artists and professionals and everybody getting together to understand this moment? And this is our time to collectively represent each other in strength.
You know what? I don't know if I'm the best person to speak on that right now because of this whole COVID thing and trying to step into doing it a different way. I'm not out there as much as I used to be. But my general complaint is still like when we did the first, meeting. I know dog and pony shows and all those kinds of things are necessary. But I still am so basic that I kind of feel like it's the plantation thing. What are we doing to get off the plantation?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just, say, okay, well, we got a new buggy and it's got wheels, it's got spinners on it and it's red, but we're still on the plantation.
Right.
And I personally feel that's kind of like where things are right now. I don't see like a real collective. I see that there's funds out there and there's conversation out there right now, but we all lived in San Diego before this happened. And many of us didn't have a relationship with each other. And we're all artists. And it's easy to be in San Diego and say, I don't go over to southeastern San Diego. I don't deal with those people because they don't really control the art world. I got to go to the white side if I really want to work and get paid and all of that. And it's a waste of time to deal, with my people because they're not really getting, I don't see that part being addressed. There's too many of us that have lived in this city for all our lives and we have no relationship. And if you develop a relationship behind crisis, then it's a Band-Aid. It's not a real relationship. So I think we need to do better work. I think we need to step it up as Black people that are artists. I think we need to have even more real come to Jesus kinds of meetings and then kind of create a blueprint of how we're collectively going forward and who's not, because you don't really need everybody, but we need to know who we really have, who's on first, who's on second, and all that. And I don't think we really know that right now.
Let's talk about the festival, man. Let's talk about the 29th annual.
I know that festival's been going on almost as long as I've been alive.
That part right there. It actually has been going on long because remember we did it in the community before the rep.
Yeah, one of the things I love that there's this theme of Black 2 that is generally in the titles of Kuumba Fest. You said that this year is Black to Action, and I love that. I love especially that was a theme even before this moment, that you all were talking about Black to Action even before there was this social reckoning and everything. And I think it's easy to hear that term Black to Action, Black to whatever, and just think of it as a play on words, back to Black to.
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
so much deeper than that. Like when I think Black to Action, to me, that's a call to action. That is a call for Black folks to assemble and let's take some action. So that Black 2 isn't just a play on words. It feels like it's a call. It's a a proclamation. Can you talk about that theme, that running theme?
Well, thank you for getting it. I always wonder if people get those themes, but it literally is that, Jacole. It's telling us it's time for us to get back to action that like our ancestors did. The civil rights movement was created by us. The Black Wall Street in Oklahoma City, whatever, that was created by us. I mean, I can go crazy with it because I think about, like I said before, the Elementary Institute of Science, the Malcolm X Library. There's only one Malcolm X library in the world named after Malcolm X. We did that. We said we want buildings named after us. The children that I've been working with over these years, they were like, why aren't there buildings named after us? Why are there buildings named after those people? And blah. Well, we said, okay, let's do something about that. The fact that we built Market Creek Plaza, the fact that there's a ECC, the fact that there was Pacific Coast Bank, the fact that there were Black credit. I grew up being able to see all of those things built by Black people. And it's time for us to go back to that if we expect our kids, the next generation, to be contributors and movers and shakers. They have to know that they have the ability to do it, and that these things don't just come up happenstance. And no, the white man didn't come build this for you. You built it. And you should go to school to learn how to build things, so that if without that connection to the community and tying in and sharing with them all of the incredible, when I tell young people, we built Market Creek Plaza, we built the Elementary Institute of Science, we built the library, they're like, what? We can do that? We owe it to them, to showcase our history and the things that we have accomplished so that they can duplicate it and then surpass what we did. But that challenge, we have to do a better job at instituting the challenge and then letting them know that the support is there, and that, our ancestors built the Giza pyramids, without any kind of tools. You have that same blood and genetic, capacity inside of you. What are you going to do with it? And just imagine if all of the artists that are spread throughout San Diego, from Solana Beach all the way down here, think if we really came together and said, there's one specific thing that we want to do to create legacy for people of African ancestry when it comes to the arts and culture. And we want it to be there to represent for the rest of the world, going into Afrofuturism and those kinds of things. This Kuumba Fest is speaking to that. It's saying Black to action, but not in vain, not just for the sake of doing it. Let's do something that is substantial and that it will stand the test of time, because that's what our ancestors did. The things that exist in Egypt, the wonders of the world, those people have the same genetic makeup that we have. But if we don't challenge ourselves and challenge our young people to embrace that history, that ancestry, then we're remiss, because there's no way they're going to know about it unless we use art and cultural enrichment to teach them and challenge them to do it. And this year, that's really what it's about. That first night, we're doing like how we normally do the royal court. We're literally doing it's sort of like a wedding ceremony, but it's two young people taking the vow to lead their people to liberty, equality, and freedom. And they're going through a sort of like a wedding ceremony, and all of the people are telling them, give up, don't even waste your time. Black people aren't worth it, but they're going through the struggle. And that's the message that we want to give. We want to inspire people. It's one thing to say something, but it's something else to get your body involved. And we're asking people this year to get involved. Did I lose you guys?
No, you're
No,
here.
right
I'm
here.
just showing
Okay,
everybody.
just showing information.
I'm just showing everybody the actual flyer of the festival and the page at sdrep.org for everybody. I just wanted everyone to kind of get a visual on the flyer and just see where they can get more information about it while you were talking about it.
And so the spears we added to our logo, it represents us physically getting involved. Get your body involved now. It can't just be a construct, a mental, a conversation kind of thing.
A hashtag.
Yeah, there you go. It cannot just be a hashtag. Thank you. You got to do something. You really, and everybody can do something different. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but let your vibration go into frequency. Don't let it just stay vibration as a hashtag and talk.
Can you talk to me a little bit? Because I know, like I said, this year we know it's virtual, but like you're saying about getting involved, is really what so much of the festival. That's what I've ever since I started really understanding what Kuumba Festival was. That's what it was for me, is that it was this holistic thing. It was always there. There were plays, there were workshops, health workshops, economic workshops. There was these things to where you had to actually come and get involved and participate. All of the late night live, the competitions, the everything. Like, talk to a little bit about that, because I know we're doing it virtual this year. And talk to me a little bit about that, or talk to everybody a little bit about that, about as we look forward to next year, about how important that is to you, about the holistic view of that. It's just not a festival where you come watch a couple of plays. That this thing is to get involved, get the kids involved, get the family involved, get people going.
Real talk. Like we said before, we started out doing gang diversion and those kinds of things. One of the things that people take for granted is that if you're recovering from any what we call self-defeating behavior, if you are at in theater from 6 to 11 o'clock, you ain't got time to do whatever you was doing that was self-defeating. And that's what we couldn't understand, because we'd be tired, ready to go. But they explained to us, Mr. Dajahn, we don't want to go home, because if we go home right now, they're doing drugs or drinking or cussing or this and that and this and that. And that's what made us start increasing the activities, because it's one thing to do prevention. It's another thing to do intervention. But if you don't do support, you have to keep starting over and over and over again. So you got Kuumba Fest in the first quarter. You have Lift Every Voice in the second quarter. You have Fat Extravaganza in the third quarter. And then you have Black Family. And then we were doing the toy giveaway and all that other kinds of stuff. So any family that takes on Kuumba Fest as a holistic way of being healthier, of eating healthier, learning more about nutrition and physical activity and cultural enrichment and history and all of that, it's an excellent, because it's so community involved. The kids do Saturday school on Saturdays. The boys do literacy on Tuesdays. There are families that literally base their life, the structure of their families with that. And with this advent of COVID, it has disrupted a lot of that. I actually have 4 people who have relapsed, who've been clean over 4 years. Wow. So theater is so much more for communities like us. It's almost like church for us. You got them people that go to church and they sitting in church all day and all night. Well, while they were in there, they weren't smoking, drinking, and shooting up. So it becomes therapeutic. And it become many of the young men that were in the gang diversion program, like Rodney, who had a reputation for being big and bad. But once he started playing Shaka Zulu and teaching people about history and culture, and you can be a big, strong, buff Black man representing our kings and queens instead of destroying the community, that caught on. And it became therapy for people. Instead of them doing whatever they were doing for 6 hours, now they're working out so they can get on stage, to be whatever once a year, and 3 or 4 times a year doing showcases. San Diego City schools embraced them, juvenile hall embraced them, probation ended up embracing them. And they got used to doing that. And with the advent of COVID this year, a lot of people are just discombobulated. I have a really small space, in the Diamond District, but even with COVID, I can only let 5 people in there at a time. So right now, we see the power of what we were offering much greater, because of the fact that they can't get to it right now. And we see the negative, the more nefarious things of people not being able to utilize this for therapeutic time or healthy, holistic time, because we can't offer it the same way. That's right. But to say, the point is, it's way more powerful than what we imagine, and we will be stepping it up as soon as we're able to.
That's right. That's right. We're getting close to an end of time. As we're heading towards the festival, you know, and I hope people will, you know, head on over to sdrep.org and check it out and see everything that's being offered. We get a lot of, even though it's virtual, a lot of great events going on, you know, and as you were talking about the arts and commission, you know, and talking about the vision going forward, you know, we'll have Chida Rebecca on when we do and Cheryl Morrow when we're talking about the effect of Black media, and hopefully we can get from her viewpoint is now now being a representative for, you know, Mayor Todd Gloria,
exactly,
you know, to expound on that a little bit more. Any words you want to give people with the festival coming up and encourage them, or any words of encouragement that you want to give them as they check out the festival this year?
Well, I want you to see the whole festival, of course. But the Friday night, oh my God, the Friday night show, wait, is that Friday? Okay, well, Friday night is going to be off the chain. The ceremony is going to be fantastic. But the parade of the ancestors, man, these young people are coming together and they're like fasting and doing all this spiritual stuff so that they can evoke, you know, the ancestor that they're doing. But brother, woo, we've been recording them on, oh my God, we've been blown away at the recordings. And some of them are so young and they were so shy in the beginning, like, oh, I can't do this, and oh, I can't that. And we just asked them, look at the fact that this is a real life person. It's not Santa Claus. It's a real life person. Take a minute to honor that person and then just look in the mirror and share his story. They had us in tears when they came back and told us, I did it, and I feel like I'm honoring that ancestor, and my parents and my friends were so proud of me. I can't wait. They do, man, they're so fantastic that San Diego City schools are asking them to do their videos on Zooms for class projects and things like that. And these kids were super shy when we got them. So to see them, woo, emote and evoke and just get into it and then make it part of their lives and tell other people, this is the way we're supposed to be living, not that other way. That other way was results of us being traumatized. This is who we really are. This is our essence. You can knock me over with a feather, brother. I'm just blown. So yeah, catch everything, but you will be upset if you miss out on the parade of the ancestors in this virtual way. I'm so blown away.
It's all,
if nobody else look at
powerful.
it, I'm blown away.
The parade of ancestors is always powerful, man. Like you put that together so well. I tip my hat to you because you put so much behind that and put so much into that. And let me tell y'all something. Like when Dajahn's in rehearsal with these folks, Dajahn is letting them know, like, do you know who you representing up here? Do you know who you do? Like, he is not playing. Like, do you know whose costume you're wearing today? Do you know what that represents? Do you know? Like, I sat there and watched Dajahn in rehearsal and be like, ooh, I'm glad. Well, one time I was on stage. One time I had to be subjected to that. But I sit there and I'm like, look, man, Dajahn is like, look, yes, this is fun. This is great, but we got to get this right. You representing our history. You representing something spectacular here. So, man,
it's ministry. It's definitely ministry. And we challenge everybody that participates in it, embrace it, and then embrace the ministry too. This year, the whole world will get to see what these young people are doing, showcasing their pride and their gratitude of those who came before us. And so we're really asking people, help build that vibration, do what you need to do, be a part of it, and let's take it to the next level and prepare for next year.
That's right. That's right.
And it is ministry, it is fellowship, it is all the things. But if I might get shallow for a minute, ladies, you want to tune in? I have seen some of the costumes in the past. I have seen some of these brothers on parade. You might want to tune in.
That's right. That's right.
For the ministry. Tune in for the ministry.
That's right, that ministry. Ram
That's some
Ramses
good looking ministry you got going on right there.
Ramses is bringing the ministry.
Woo! Always does.
Dajahn, look, man, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Look, man, thank you so much for coming and talking to us tonight, man. Thank you so much for, coming on and sharing the story and letting people know how important this is. And for any of you educators on the call, if you want to talk to Dajahn, I got to give a shout out to Angela from the Mecca, all high school mate there, educator.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. Just thank you, Dajahn. We really appreciate this. If any of y'all want more information about Kuumba Fest, head on over to sdrep.org. You can just go look at our festival link. You'll see Kuumba Fest will pop up. If you need some detailed information, you can email me, adents@sdrep.org. If you want to get in contact with Dajahn, I'll put him in contact with you. Follow San Diego Kuumba Fest on Facebook, Urban Warriors on Facebook. You can follow Kuumba Fest on Instagram. Make sure you follow on next Thursday. Dajahn don't even know this. We'll be doing a Kuumba Fest takeover on the San Diego Repertory Theatre Instagram page. So for those who are on Instagram, make sure you follow us to get all the details on Kuumba Fest coming up. And Dajahn, bruh, thank you. I know me and you, this ain't goodbye, bruh, because we about to be talking and emailing for the next week every day straight.
Yeah.
But
look, thank
man,
you guys for this. Thank you and Jacole very much for this. San Diego Repertory Theater's family. We have made history because people kept saying that it would never happen. And look at us now. So let's just continue to change that narrative and write our own stories.
That's right. That's right.
This was another one of those masterclass episodes. I feel like I have gotten just a wealth of information as far as kind of San Diego history, as far as the Diamond District, as far as the connection of theater and community in this town. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dajahn. Thank you, Jacole. And as always, got to remind y'all, this bus don't leave the station without Sharisa. Sharisa is the person on this call that y'all do not see or hear. Look, this bus don't leave the station. This plane don't let, whatever metaphor you want, it don't happen without Sharisa. I'll use an industry term, back there on the boards. Out there, back there running the boards or on the ones and twos. Sharisa makes this thing happen. So thank you, Sharisa. Thank all of you. Remember, on March 4th, Candace Crystal will be our guest. On March 18th, we'll be talking to Keith Joseph Atkins and Jonathan McQuarrie. Please come back, join us, sign up at sdrep.org/listening. And everybody, have a good night. Have a spectacular weekend. And I will talk to all of y'all later.